Recorded Books presents Wild Thing, The Short Spellbinding Life of Jimi Hendrix by Philip Norman, narrated by Akko Mitchell.
Jimi worked with light. He used light to bring walls down. Carlos Santana. Prologue. He was a lovely feller. All rock music's historic names began by doing cover versions of other people's songs, usually little more than pale facsimiles, to be discarded once the impersonators had a sound of their own. The great exception was Jimi Hendrix, who throughout his brief time at the top went on performing covers that were never straight copies and often radical reimaginings. The Beatles' whimsical Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, for instance, he turned into a heavy metal broadside that Paul McCartney, no stranger to accolades, considered one of the greatest honors of his life. Everybody whom Jimi covered felt the same, not pique at the deconstruction of their often million-selling handiwork, but awe at the new dimensions to which he transported it. Indeed, the apogee of his genius, rather than original composition like Purple Haze or Voodoo Child, is widely thought to be his treatment of Bob Dylan's All Along the Watchtower. The track had first appeared on Dylan's John Wesley Harding album in 1966 and, as usual, was a reflection of his reading rather than his life. The title came from a passage in the Old Testament's Book of Isaiah, one also containing the phrase, "Go set a watchman," which Harper Lee borrowed for an early draft of what became To Kill a Mockingbird. Dylan gave it a medieval setting, filtered through the sensibility of some Victorian poet like Alfred Lord Tennyson, his great passion at the time. The result seemed more a throwback to his folky past than affirmation of his recent conversion to rock. A solitary voice, repetitive acoustic strumming, a harmonica pitched too high to pack its usual punch, and no echo anywhere of his Victorian poetic muse, no sad-eyed Lady of Shalott. Although generally greeted as a further consolidation of the Dylan miracle, it caught some flack from fellow musos for being all portentousness without a payoff. His former folk mentor, Dave Von Ronk, even criticized the syntax, calling it a mistake from the title on down. A watchtower is not a road or a wall, and you can't go along it. Jimi's cover appeared on Electric Ladyland, his third album after being transplanted from New York to London, and teamed with two white Britons, drummer Mitch Mitchell and bass player Noel Redding, as the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It is at once the quintessence of primal hard rock and a reminder that, whatever the medium, true genius demands not only matchless expertise and energy, but discipline and understatement. In Jimi's hands, the rather aimless canter of the Dylan version is slowed down by an introductory chord sequence, simple enough in form yet with a wet, seething quality suggestive of some wild seashore with angry waves pounding the shingle, gulls screaming, bladder wrack glistening, and dark clouds piling overhead. All the Tennysonian bleakness and melodrama that Dylan left out are there in a moment. The lyric starts as a duologue between the Joker, i.e. the traditional playing card figure in stripy three-pointed hat, and the thief, plotting escape from some unspecified confinement, whereas Dylan's every syllable was soaked in irony and ambiguity. Jimi's mellow baritone plays it completely straight, with perhaps the slightest emphasis on "there's too much confusion" and "I can't get no relief," which happened to express what he was already feeling about his new life in Britain. His voice carries the same
Sample complete. Ready to continue?